basically captive by this handful of terrorists. But the media coverage worked to their advantage.
Oh, absolutely. They showed the controller was looking at CNN and giving them instructions. I see this. You're doing good. Kill them. I mean, I was just amazed at how CNN was abused in this particular instance because CNN carried it live.
Yeah.
And after 3 days when the military came in, they shut it down. But otherwise, the instructions were being given from Pakistan while looking at the television.
For those of you who are more interested and would like to see some of this footage for yourself, you can watch the program called Terror in Mumbai on HBO this month. Moving on, we all know that the country of Switzerland is known for its tolerance, for its neutrality, and that it's a peace-loving country. That's why I was really, really upset when I read this New York Times article about the Swiss government banning the building of minarets on Muslim mosques in that country. There was a referendum put out to voters, and a clear majority of 57.5% of the voters voted for this ban. Now, they're not saying that mosques can't be built. In fact, there are already 150 mosques in Switzerland. But what they're saying is the minarets, those small towers outside of the mosque where the call to prayer is projected from, those cannot be built anymore. And I have been searching to find the explanation, and I simply can't find any explanation other than this is driven by a fear of Muslims. That being said, listen to this. Of those 150 mosques or prayer rooms, only 4 have minarets in Switzerland currently. 2 more minarets are supposed to be built. And there are about 400,000 Muslims in Switzerland, but 90% of them are from Kosovo and Turkey. They're from much more, liberal, secular Muslim populations, not very, very conservative. So I don't understand what this fear is about. I mean, take a look at this image that has been put all over the Swiss media, depicting a woman in niqab and minarets made out to look like missiles coming out of the Swiss flag. Where is this fear coming from?
Well, 57% of the population said don't do it. So the referendum is there. They are voted, every country to themselves. What are you going to do?
But I know you don't think that.
No, I don't think that. In fact, I tell you a wonderful story. This past week, D.C. Council approved the same-sex marriage. And Mr. Catania, who was the main sponsor of it, he talked about a particular incident that occurred long before we got the civil rights. It was actually put to a vote right here in Washington, D.C., in Georgetown. And most of the public says no civil rights for anybody. So he says some freedoms you cannot put to vote because they'll be against the minority. This is also the same way.
Right, because just because the majority of Swiss people are driven by this fear of Islam doesn't mean that it's okay to then restrict religious freedom and to impose these restrictions on the way that the religious institutions and buildings are constructed. I just was appalled at this news.
They could have taken care of this through zoning laws. That would have been much better.
There's a man in construction talking.
And the second thing is now the Muslim countries are going to hold doing business with them. See, this whole thing is going to explode in something else, and normal people will suffer.
You're absolutely right.
Zoning laws should have been used. Oh, you cannot scream from the top of the tower. Oh, you cannot do this. That could have all taken care of. I was invited by Fiki over at Georgetown University a few weeks ago, and Kapil Sibal, the Minister of Human Resources, was there to make a speech about education. He was traveling the country, visiting all the universities, and talking about how he's not concerned about 300 million people because they are within the mainstream, they are middle class, and he's not worried about them. He's worried about the other 900 million people that are poor. Education is the only way to get people out of the poverty, which I thought was a very strong, nice argument. But while doing this speech and, getting us by our heartstrings, one thing he said that did not make sense, which was, yes, you're welcome to come in, bring lots of money, build schools, run schools, but you're not allowed to take a dime back.
Not
Now,
profit.
Yeah, you know, I mean, even though you are a very nice person, you always want to see a little return. Because if there's no return, there's no excellence, you know. So consequently, he didn't see it. And I was waiting. I asked him, I said, why don't you say in 5 years you can take it back? Say 10 years, you know. But I have seen every university has gone to India. They have sniffed around. They've kicked the tires. They've figured it out. Yeah, they want to go there. But they don't want to put a shingle up there if there's no money in it for them.
Well, I mean, clearly the needs are great, and we'll have to wait and see if India provides more incentives to educational institutions from different parts of the world to actually invest in India's education.
That's right. And they will. People are willing to do it. And India needs the help. It's only, you know, you have to devise a policy that's a win-win on every side. You just can't devise a policy that's only win on one side.
Well, speaking of winning, a very small win this week was reported on World AIDS Day. December 1st was World AIDS Day, and there's some good news from the southern state of Karnataka. Apparently, some of the HIV/AIDS prevention interventions are playing a significant role in controlling the spread of the virus and mitigating its impact. HIV prevalence has come down from 1.6% in 2003 to 0.86 in 2007 and 2008. It may not seem like a lot when you see that tiny, tenths of percentage points, but in sheer numbers, this reduction in prevalence would reduce the number of HIV-positive newborns by 2,000 every year. Imagine 2,000 fewer HIV-infected newborn babies. That's real progress when it comes to fighting AIDS in India, and a lot of Karnataka should get a lot of credit for maintaining high levels of